Not me. Happened. Absolutely. And first of all, we probably should tell them which new product we're talking about. We are talking about the new Caesar Easy Subly vinyl. And in the case of Sawgrass, we actually worked with Caesar to create an ink specifically for that vinyl, because that's one of the things we do at Sawgrass is we work with different partner manufacturers who are maybe bringing a new product to market, and we work with them to help make sure that they can get the best image quality using sublimation. So in this case, we've actually created a new ink as well as a special profile to make the ink come across with the best color that you can get. And we'll talk about all those details as we go. Not to be all done. It, I think I tried it too long. It doesn't fit anymore. That's today. I hear you fine. So,
Well, because we had to reboot again, so now they should start to
no, no,
hear
no.
me.
You have to reboot again. Let's be specific here.
Okay, I had to bring down the system. I had to then send it back to Jimmy and blah blah blah. Okay, hear you now. Thank you, Michelle. So sorry, you guys. Um, Alice is hi. Estelle, Lisa, Laura, Barb, Betsy, Joanne, they're all here. They want to hear the news. And so they missed what I was saying, but anyway, so I did a live show with Coastal the other day. They had sent me some samples, which was really cool. So I want to talk about it. I haven't done vinyl in years. When I got a hold of Sublimation, I was like, no more weeding for me for the rest of my life. Sublimation changed my life, seriously, and in all seriousness, it changed my life. I have not been the same person since I drank the Kool-Aid. It's like,
What was in that Kool-Aid?
what's that?
What was in that Kool-Aid?
Sublimation changed my life. Literally, I love it and I've never looked back. It's addicting, people. If you've not done sublimation, it's like it's a game changer. I think it I've never looked back. And I remember a friend of mine said, once you get into that, you'll go do something else, because I had already done vinyl and um, embroidery and paper crafts and scrapbooking, but nothing ever grabbed my attention or heart like sublimation has. And so for me, it was actually a game changer in a major way for me. And so here I am today still talking about it. And so she bet me $100 that in 6 months I would be doing something else. So about a year later, she came back, and maybe a year and a half, and she's like, "Oh my God, you are still doing it. I owe you $100." I'm like, well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but so she actually gave me $100. It's a true story. So anyway, so I want to talk about, so one of the things that I noticed about this vinyl, that unlike the other vinyls that I've used in the past, it really has a softness to it. It's not real plasticky, it's not real
Right.
plasticky. So I was really impressed with that, and as I said to other people, the other day, is that, because I haven't used it, I mean, obviously they've changed things, in the vinyl industry, which is awesome. So
Yeah, I
then,
mean,
go ahead.
there's a lot of change. I mean, one of the things that some of the, not just Caesar, but other vinyl companies have tried to do is to make it not only softer on the hand, but also to make it more flexible so it stretches with the shirt. Because when you have things
Yes.
that don't stretch, they break eventually, and that includes screen printing. Screen
Yeah.
printing, eventually the ink breaks, the vinyl pulls off. So if we can get vinyl that actually moves a little bit with shirts, it's going to last longer on the shirt.
Well, and that was the other thing I was talking about too, is the stretchability of it. And I was super impressed with that as well. So now let's go to the full print. This is where I was. And so, I mean, this is actually with the Easy Subly that they had sent me.
Oh,
So,
you did the nice square instead of fancy.
yeah, well, okay, so, and this is where I was like, this feels like vinyl to me, and I wouldn't do something like this. I would have to cut it out. I would have to do something, something. Maybe, I don't know. I would do something different, because I want there to be that soft flexibility that, doesn't.
And custom look too. A square does not look very custom. It looks like something
Exactly. And of course,
on
they
there.
were just sending this as a sample. So it's not
Sure.
like, I mean, I'm not faulting anybody. She just wanted to send it to me so I could get a hand feel and all that stuff. And so, but, that being said, it was like, okay, so this is a square. It looks like it's a square. It feels like it's a square. So that's
That's
not something
beautiful.
I would do. So if I had a full, so this is what was asked, and so and this is where I'm going to talk to you about this. So one of the things that we were talking about. Hey, Martha. So one of the things we were talking about was a full. How do you do a full shirt, like something like this, like a large design? And in lieu of this, I would do, if I had it, I would do this. I would do something with a heat transfer that's rasterized, because I mean, you have that soft feel, and it doesn't feel like it's plastic. And to me, that's kind of a big deal. And even on a larger scale like this one, it's beautiful. It has and it has that soft feel, and it's stretchable.
And it's not a square.
and it's not it's not a square exactly. So anyway, of course I think that there's room for everything out there, but
Right.
to me, I said this the other day and I'm going to say it again because I do believe that this is a game changer. That vinyl, the Caesar new vinyl, being able to be sublimated on where you don't have layers and layers of,
Right.
to get multiple colors. it- I think it's a pretty big deal.
Well,
I'm not, okay, go ahead.
I think the other big deal too is the fact that you don't have to have 50 rolls hanging on the wall to get 50 colors. You have one roll of,
Nice.
you colorize it, and just to go a little deeper, since if you're using the Sawgrass system to print on it, using your Virtuoso Print Manager, you do have what we call spot color management, which means you can create custom colors like you're trying to match a corporate brand. Well, use the VPM to actually find the matching color for it, create that color, save it. There might not even be a vinyl color that does match it. So
Right.
you got that. And the other thing too that I look at is, you and I are both always going to look at every application you can possibly think of, right? But at the very baseline, what we're doing is we're giving people that are doing transfer vinyl the option to customize that vinyl with pretty pictures, colors, graphics, all those types of things. At the end of the day, it still might not be that vinyl replaces other things. So it's taking vinyl to a whole nother level is what we're doing here.
I agree with that totally. Again, because like you said, you don't have to have 50 rolls of vinyl now hanging on your wall. The other thing, and when space is so important, as they say, the real estate
Right.
is costly. The other thing is, and this is something that maybe you will know, maybe you won't. How is it with photographs?
With what?
Photographs. If somebody wants to put
Photograph.
like, photos on, because when it comes to skin tones and stuff, it makes all the difference.
I have not put photographs myself onto the vinyl. I've really
Okay.
done most of the graphics. So I'm not really qualified to tell you how well it does or does not work since I haven't tried it. But a lot of times photographs depend on a substrate that is not very porous. Okay. If you put a photograph, just sublimate directly on a shirt, you're never going to get that look that you get on an aluminum photo panel because of the
Right.
shirt. Also, when you're talking about the vinyls, you don't press a vinyl for very long that you've sublimated as opposed to pressing directly onto a photo panel. So I believe that you can probably do an okay photograph, but I don't know if it's going to be the quality, the super high quality that you would look at, because that's not something we normally put on these types of products anyway.
Well, a lot of people now are starting to do, and this is where I was going with it. They do the memory
Yes.
blankets, they do the quilts, they do all that. So that's where I was kind of going with that. That if they wanted to sublimate, say a photo of grandma or whatever, and then cut it out,
Right.
put it on,
Well, I
a
think that,
square.
yeah, no square, please, no square. So I think that what the cool thing here is, because honestly, I don't like photographs of people on things. I like photographs that tell a story. Okay, do you understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you take the photograph, I would much rather see grandma, in front of her garden than seeing grandma cut out along her profile. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right?
Poor grandma.
Well, I think that
We're
when you
picking on
also,
grandma.
you start putting the landscape in the background or the other things too, that you're creating a real special memory that's probably going to come across pretty well.
Yeah. I
Opposed
agree.
to the photographs on the.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that if we have any questions here, and we don't at the moment. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. So Jimmy, do you know what the instructions are in terms of printing and pressing time wise?
Off the top of my head, it's 311 degrees for 13 seconds at a medium pressure. I believe
Okay.
that's what.
Okay. All right.
I
I'm a
would normally read
photographer
the
and
directions just so you know.
what's
Okay.
that?
I would normally read the directions just so you know.
Okay.
But I was doing some of this the other day. I believe, if memory serves correct, that was what the numbers were.
Okay. 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 So now, what are your thoughts on printing and pressing directly to the vinyl? So, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. So, you cut out the vinyl. You then put the transfer on. You put the transfer onto the T-shirt, which is the first one that I showed you, and then you then sublimate onto it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, they made the product to go straight through the printer. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's
They
far
did.
the easiest way to do it is just take the vinyl and feed it through your printer. And then when it comes out, you're going to trim it. Like I have a silhouette behind me, and you would trim with that, and then you would take it over and you would put it on all in once. So you're going to put that down onto the surface, and you're going to cover it with. They have a special name they call for the sheet that they put over it. But
The masking sheet.
masking, yeah, that's what they call it. Their masking sheet, and then you're just gonna, you're gonna put it on with heat. Now, I guess we should step back because not everybody's done vinyl. So what I did was I took sort of a shortcut in there. Typically, when you're printing to vinyl, it's a two-layered product, and the top layer of the vinyl is the actual printable surface, and then it's all on a secondary layer down underneath, and so that all goes through together. When you go to the cutter, the little blade on the cutter doesn't cut through both layers. It only cuts through the top layer, so that, as you say, trim out my fingers with your little cutting blade and pretend my fingers were actually a butterfly. Okay. See, that's like magic, right? Then what happens is you are still doing some weeding because you're going to pull away the excess vinyl that you don't need. Okay. So in the case of we were trimming my hand, the hand is left. Okay. Now, typically, you're going to take what I call a carrier sheet, but they call a masking sheet, which is like a clear piece with some adhesive, and you lay it right across the top of what's been cut out, and you pull the whole thing up off of that backing. Now you walk over to your shirt, you lay it down on the shirt, position it out, leave the masking up there, put it on the heat press. It does not melt the masking. And then as soon as you're finished, you pull the masking off, throw it away. Now, the masking, where the masking is important is it's not that important for this. This is one solid piece. Okay.
Right. Right.
Just peel that off of my fingers and go put it on there. But if you go back to your shirt, for example, you have all those individual pieces.
Right. Right.
You have to peel off each individual piece and then position it. So the idea of the carrier, you put it down all of those multiple pieces and it holds them together in the right position. So then when you
Right.
go over to the shirt and put it down, it works. And so for those who haven't done vinyl before, that's basically what we're talking about with the masking sheets and carrier sheets and all that fun stuff.
Right. Okay.
So everything I've done direct to the vinyl sheet in my printer and then go through that process. But what you were talking about is you're talking about printing on image onto sublimation transfer paper,
Yes.
applying vinyl first all by itself to the shirt, and then sublimating onto the vinyl, which is already on the shirt.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So you want to elaborate on that of how that.
Well,
Yeah.
it actually came out really nice. I mean, it did.
Okay.
So I think, and again, this was with the HD sublimation ink printer. This was sent to me again by Coastal,
Right.
and they were just showing me the different possibilities. So I already have a question. If I have an SG400, can I convert it to that easy subli? Now I was told, and so I'm going to get it from the authority here, hopefully.
Who would that be? I'll see if there's anyone in the room.
Well, then you know somebody that can tell us. But I was told that if they take an SG400 and convert it, it's going to take like 40 flushings, which is a waste of ink for sure. For sure. but besides that, it's going to void the warranty. Is that correct?
Um, I haven't heard any discussions on the warranty. Okay.
Okay.
What I know, and we can certainly get that information uh, from someone. Okay.
Well, I think it's a very important question because if somebody wants to
Right.
convert their SG that they already have, that's important information to have. Now,
Let's step back first and let's talk about the options of how you can get the Easy Subly ink. Okay, because what you're talking about first of all is for everybody that already has their SG400, SG800, that if they wanted to convert to Easy Subly ink from their Sublejet HD, can they do that? The answer is yes. And I should also point out that the Easy Subly ink, though it's designed for the printers and we created it is a little bit different chemically to be able to work properly with or to give us the best results with the vinyl. So that's why we did create a secondary ink. We didn't want to force people to run out and pump their printer dry. We wanted them to get the best quality image they could.
right, right.
If you wanted to convert, basically you're taking one set of chemicals that are in there and then you're converting it to another set of chemicals. So you have to thoroughly flush them out. Even though you think that they might be the same, there are differences in them. And if we have mixed in two different inks, we're going to get some very interesting results out.
Mm-hmm.
So you would then put in your Easy Subly ink, and you start flushing and flushing and flushing to be. And what you're doing is every time you flush, you're pumping out old ink. And you got to keep in mind it's all wound around in tubings and in the heads and everything, and it's leaving a residue. So you're constantly pumping out the old with the new to get rid of that residue. But they found it can take as many as 40 flushings to completely get everything out. So that's a whole lot of ink, as you said, that's been used up for nothing but flushing. Um, Based on that, if you really thought you were going to do a lot of the vinyl, you're probably better off to buy another SG400 for about the same amount of money that you're spending on all that ink. Now, you do have the option with your Sublejet printer where you can continue to use your Sublejet HD ink to print on the vinyl. I have samples here, and unfortunately, they just don't show up that well on a webcam. And I can see a difference between the two. Okay, I can tell that the Easy Subly ink with the profile that we made for it gives us better and more solid color. And then we took the same image and did it with a different printer that had the standard Sublejet ink that you probably already have. And while it did a good job, it didn't do as good a job. Okay, so I mean, I don't know if you can really tell a difference because I can hold this one up and you just got to stare at it for a minute. But if you look at the middle part, the dark sections of the butterfly,
Right.
I go to this one here. First, I'll tell you that almost all the butterflies are a little lighter, but in the dark sections, they believe it or not, they look almost like they're a little bit pixelated.
Yep, I see it. I see it.
Yeah. So, you also saw that with it stuck in your face. Okay, can you see it now? No.
No.
So they're different people that have different standards of what they want, and what we basically wanted to do here was we wanted to give people the option to have the best quality image that they could produce on the Caesar Easy Subly vinyl by creating ink that's directly matched to it. Okay, that's the
Right.
if you are one that says, well, maybe I'll do this occasionally, but I'm not going to do it a lot. I don't want to invest in anything else. And I said, well, by all means, get a sample of the vinyl and do some experimentation with your existing printer using your existing ink and see if you're okay with those results. And you may be okay with those results, or you may not. That's totally up to you. So that's why we
Right.
have there's two different options for you to try. Kind of like a good, better, best thing. We got good and we got better. So.
Okay, so and if you guys want samples, I know that Condi is doing sample packs and Coastal's doing sample packs, and we get a discount with both of them. So, message me after if you care to. So we have a bunch of questions, but my next question, how does this compare to eco solvent printing of the vinyl? Do you have any idea.
I don't. I
I
haven't done
don't either. So
it
I
on it.
can't
So
even.
I'm
I've been asked that, and I really just don't have the answer. So
right.
okay.
One other piece of this puzzle, I want to make sure everybody does understand, regardless of whether they're using the Easy Subli Vinyl ink. Here, we'll do another pitch. The Easy Subli Vinyl ink, regardless of whether they're using that or their standard Sublegit HD, with our VPM Virtuoso Print Manager, we did create a profile specifically for this product. So if you're going to do that printing, when you obtain your vinyl, they from which whomever dealer you buy it from, they'll give you the code that you would then put into your VPM unit to be able to open and access that profile. So we do remind people that we do build profiles for specific products. And actually, I think the
Which
code
is
is
important.
SER. So
Yeah, that's important to know. Okay, so we have again a bunch of questions. Okay, if I have an SG, can I convert? Okay, ask that. Okay, do you have to have the Sawgrass printer and the special ink to use the vinyl?
well, I will tell you that ink was made specifically for this vinyl, and that vinyl is also only been tested specifically ink. So it is compatible both ways. It doesn't mean any ink is compatible with that vinyl. Like I said, we did the engineering not just of the ink, but a special profile, and the profile controls the saturation of the ink, how much you're putting out, how little you're putting out based on that actual product. So the profile is as important as the ink, really. So you do have to have the Sawgrass Caesar profile to make it work, which is only available for the SG400 and SG800.
Great. Okay. Okay, so that answers that. Okay, so if I purchased another printer, can you use Subli ink for other substrates or is it just vinyl?
Oh, that's a great question. The Easy Subli ink will work on other substrates as well. So if you bought a printer with Easy Subli ink for vinyl, yes, you can still do coffee mugs and other things with it as well.
So will it be the same
It, you,
vibrancy and
if
all
you're
that?
using both systems in the same shop, you will want to do a comparison on the outputs to see if the colors are identical between the two. They, again, because it was made for the vinyl, the exact color that we see on a non-vinyl product using the Easy Sublimate ink may have, some shading differences. So it's one of those things where you just simply do some testing yourself. If that's the only thing you're using, then you'll probably be quite happy with it. But what I'm getting at, if you have two different printers running all the time, one with one setting, one with the other, there is a chance that that the colors aren't a perfect match. And that's just not just the nature of sublimation; it's the nature of digital. You know,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, right.
you can take the same image and run it through three different DTG printers, same image, same shirt, and what do you get? You get three
That's
complete
true. That's so
colors
true.
coming out. So,
And that's what people do need to know that, you know. Okay, literally you can take it with two Sawgrass printers side by side and you're going to have a little bit of variation anyway. So it's just the way it is, as he said, I mean, it not a lot, but you're going to have a little bit because I used to have both the SG 800 and 400, and
but
I would do mugs on one, and then I would do maybe like a tile or something, and there would be, same printer, same not same printer, but same profile, and there was still that little bit of variation. So, it's just the nature of the beast, I guess.
yep.
Okay, so what would happen if you use sublimation ink on the vinyl? Would it not penetrate the vinyl?
But
Well,
you,
that's
you
what
can,
we were talking about, actually,
right.
Linda. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
cannot tell you about anybody else's ink. Okay, we've only tested our ink, and we like I said, we not only tested our inks, both the Subjet HD and of course created the Caesar Easy Subli, but we also built a profile that helped manage the printing as well, which is a very integral part about getting the right colors and the right coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so there have been comments in the group that people have said that they've used their Epson printer on it and it's come out fine. I I want to say, I'm always amazed. I'm always amazed at what people consider good. So if you have nothing to compare it to, yeah, it might look good to you, but if you compare it, apples to apples, and you really compare it apples to apples, um, or in this case, it could be an orange and an apple, but you're thinking it's an apple.
Right.
If you're following my theory here, because people will say, "Oh, this thing is really good." They've got. I don't want to insult anyone. I really don't. But they don't have the best equipment. I'll just put it that way. And so what they're good is not, is not the best. It's not, as you were saying before, it might be good, but it's not the best. There is better out there, and you can achieve better results with better equipment. And I sincerely believe that, um, only because I've seen it. It's and when you see it, I actually, speaking of this, I was asking Aaron Knight to. He's going to be speaking at the summit, and I asked him to bring a Chinese press and the DK20S and let people see the difference. It will be such a shocker for so many people to actually see the difference of what a good heat press does versus one, and it
Right.
really doesn't matter on what it's going to end up being. So I don't think, without being able to see it side by side, I don't think people can really even compare what an Epson can do versus a Sawgrass,
Right.
in my opinion.
I started as an embroiderer, which a lot of people know, not everybody knows. And at one time, I had three of the top brands of embroidery machines there, but they were running side by side. And ultimately, I decided which was the best and got rid of the other two. So,
Interesting. Which
correct,
one did you go with, Melco?
Tajima.
Really?
I had Melco, and I
Hmm.
had Brother, and I had Tajima back when Brother was really in the embroidery business.
Hmm.
They were decent machines, but Tajima, so much better than the other two. Just stick quality and everything else. I mean, it's like,
Night and
but you wouldn't
day.
know it until you saw it. So,
Right, right,
yeah,
right,
I mean, it's, I don't bash anybody else's system
right.
about it, Sawgrass. We work hard on what we do. I can tell you a few things, and again, I'm not bashing systems or naming names. Through our own testing, and we don't publish results because we don't want to be in, a mud cleaning contest. That's not how we operate.
That's
But we
that's
do, for our own purposes, make some tests, and we will find systems, for example, where it takes twice as much ink to produce the same coverage as one, as ours. So it's kind of funny because people are like, well, this ink was cheaper. And it's like, yeah, but what you don't know is you're taking twice as much of it to equal, one coat of ours. The thing that with the sublimation, with any digital kind of system, is having as much integration as you can. We're the only company that actually makes printers and inks together, hand in hand, from the ground up. So our inks are designed specifically for the characteristics of our printers, and our printers are designed specifically for the characteristics of the ink. Any other printer out there is simply an off-the-shelf printer, and ink, and the two are put together, and they work okay. But were they actually in it designed that way? Do they have color management designed to manage all of that? How much, true testing is done? What's the saturation levels? What's the ideal paper? Paper has an impact too, but different brands, there's
and
certain papers
that is true. That
we
is
don't recommend
so true. Oh my
because we did
gosh.
all that testing. At the end of the day, that's what we do here at Sawgrass. 99% of our business is sublimation, right? A lot of these other companies, it's 9% of their business, or 0.9. So
Right, 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 right.
yeah, I'm not slamming anybody whatsoever. They made their choices. I did an open house.
Well,
With
I
retailers
just
and-
want to say this on because I think it's a misnomer to think that something is cheaper because the price tag looks like it's cheaper. But at the end of the day, I think it costs people a lot more money, than what they think it does, and
Right.
a lot more. If time is money, and your time is valuable, you know, you got to put that in the equation as well, of what it takes you to set it up, unclog it, you know, do all the things that people, you know, have a hard time
Right.
doing. Listen, I have no bone to pick with any of it. I don't have any skin in the game with that. But I got to tell you, I mean, I see it day in and day out on, you know, in our group. I mean,
Right.
constantly, you know, and I feel bad for these people, and I want to say, you know, I wish I could help you, but I don't know it. You know, somebody had posted the other day about having issues with leaking or whatever, you know, and you know, it is a big difference between whether or not it's a sawgrass or it's an Epsom, because the Epsom, when you're filling in those tanks and you're doing all that, there's a there's a lot more variables of the reason why your ink may be leaking onto your paper versus a sawgrass.
Right.
So, you know,
Yeah,
it's just those kind of things that I think
yeah.
do
I was doing an
make a
open
difference.
house a couple of years ago, and a very nice lady came up and started talking to me. And she said, you know, I'm looking at all this beautiful samples here and stuff. She says, I can't get stuff that looks this good, you know, and especially I have a lot of trouble with reds and everything else. And so, well, have you called, you know, the tech support for the dealer? And she said, I did. And they said they couldn't help me. I'm like, really? I said, did you call Sawgrass tech support? They said they couldn't help me either. I said, well, that doesn't sound like us. I said, tell me a little bit more. Well, it turned out she had brand X, and that's what all we're going to say. She had brand X with brand Y, you know,
Right, of course. Yeah,
you
it's
know what I
brand
said to
X.
her?
I like
I
it.
can't help you either, you know? So I said, because I don't know these systems, I said, now, did you call the person you bought it from? Well, I bought it online. I said, well, there's got to be somebody you can call. Well, I've been trying, but I haven't been able to get any help, you know? And she was so disgusted, really, when she started comparing to right there on the spot, she bought an SG 400.
Yeah.
And a few minutes later, another lady came up, the same thing, and now I'm spitting out, oh, you must have bought brand X. She said, no, never heard of that. And I said, oh, so I got brand Z. I was like, well, wow. It was the same story. Was she got a really good price online, but she didn't have a tech support group she could call. They didn't have color management. They didn't have good resources for her to help her out. The final thing I'm going to mention is, because you were talking about refilling inks, and that's one of the things at Sawgrass, we don't sell refillable cartridges. We only sell filled cartridges that we do here. And what we have found, because I mean, we make ink in, you know, big quantities. We service big machines, small machines. What we found is you have to be very careful about filling ink, because if you get, for example, too much air in the ink, then you create micro bubbles, which are bad for ink. There's actually published standards of how many micro bubbles, you know, that you want per milliliter or whatever before it starts to cause printing problems. It causes even problems with damaging the heads over time. So we need to make sure, A, that we have controlled micro bubbles. B, we have to make sure we don't have any kind of dust particles that get in there, because we don't realize how tiny the heads are that these droplets have to go through. So a lot of times if people are trying to do these homemade, you know, things for the carts, and they got a funnel and they're trying to fill, they're getting contaminants into their ink, which they may not notice immediately, but over time it can be damaging. People that do industrial printers, the big wide format, they're in a different environment to begin with. And most of them have professional filling systems so that they can manage it the same way. So that's just one of those things I do caution people. The refillable systems is very easy to get contamination in there, which is bad for your printer and your printer heads. So,
Well, I've heard a lot of, you know, a lot of people talk about bubbles and stuff like that, and yeah, the air bubbles. All right, we have lots of questions. Okay, so so Linda says it's just confusing to me. It seems like ink is ink. Laugh out loud. I know ink for fabric is different than ink for paper. So I'm not sure that that's a question. She's just saying it's confusing. All right, Maria says, will changing Subli Jet HD to Subli ink vinyl affect the printer, avoid the warranty? So she obviously came in late. We don't know that. We are going to get the answer to that, right, Jimmy Lamb?
give me 1 minute, I'll get you the answer.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to step away for just 1 minute, and I'll
Okay.
be right back.
Oh man, he's gonna step away. He's
I'll
actually,
come
you
back.
know, normally he's at his house, but today he's actually at Sawgrass, and so which is kind of cool. Okay, so You are correct, Cheryl. In my opinion, when I had an Epson and Sawgrass, there is no comparison. Hands down, Sawgrass was much better quality, my opinion, anyway. Yeah. Um, you know, I, I want to go back to say that I do believe, and Jimmy, we'll talk about this, but you know, I think it's almost laughable when people say you don't need a profile, an ink profile. And ink is not smart. It doesn't know that, oh, this is black, this is yellow, this is cyan. It doesn't have a brain. It can't say, okay, this is where I belong. Something has to tell your printer what is going to be printed. So because of that, you have to have a profile. So when people say you don't have, oh, this ink doesn't have to have a profile, they're mistaken. Okay, so all right, Missy says, I love my Georgianite press. Yeah, me too. Okay, agree with Missy and agree with Cheryl about the heat presses quality versus quantity. Okay, the converted printers are a huge headache. Okay, so what did you find out?
Does void the warranty.
Okay. All right, so you heard it here. It does void the warranty. So, okay. So I would not be converting my Sawgrass. Okay. So,
And I also want to point out on the flushings.
well, it doesn't make any sense to do it anyway, Jimmy. The cost is just exorbitant. It really, what people don't understand is that the SG400 it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's right. Not the printer, it's the ink, and it's the profiles, and it's all that stuff. So I was just saying that I thought it was really funny that, brand X, brand X was promoting their ink that doesn't require a profile. And I said, ink doesn't have a brain. It doesn't know where to go. The printer's got to have something that says, oh, black goes here, cyan goes here. Oh, and you want purple. Oh, that, it has to have something telling it what to do. So for people that, think that, because I see that all the time too. Oh, we don't need a profile. Oh, I print all the time. I don't have a profile. The truth is you do have a profile. You just don't realize that you're printing through a profile.
Well, or you may not be using it correctly. Now, I will tell you that if you have the Sawgrass system and you install Virtuoso Print Manager, that when you look in your printer list, you'll see Virtuoso Print Manager, but you'll also see the printer. So you could actually bypass BPM and go straight to the printer. It will print. But what you're not doing is you're not controlling the flow of ink to get the best quality and efficiency of the ink based on a number of variables. We have 4 key variables that we have to remember every time we print with sublimation. The printer and the ink, which is pretty much taken care of if you only have one system. Mm-hmm. But the paper, we would need to know the paper because that's helping us determine the saturation. How much does the ink get absorbed? How much releases? We need to use less ink with this paper, more ink with that paper. I mean, and everybody wants to use less ink. So that's another advantage there because a lot of papers don't require nearly as much saturation. So that's important. And then we need to know the actual substrate itself because different substrates can affect the color. And even then,
that's so true.
Their absorption again of that. And then, of course, other things that are in VPM, we're able to set speeds. We can mirror things. We can colors. We can tell it if it's going to be a photograph or a graphic because, again, it's going to treat the colors differently as it goes through. What's happening is color shifts as it goes through the system. And if we know what the variables are that causes the majority of the shift, we can figure out how to compensate for that to prevent those shifts from affecting the end color. So this is why that's just one of several reasons we want a profile, but it's also for productivity too. So there's a lot
important. That is important too.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. Yes, ink profiles are necessary. I learned that the hard way, wasted a lot of money. Okay, every printer has a disclaimer about using any ink that is not OEM. It does void the warranty. Absolutely, Linda. That's correct. Which, again, hence Sawgrass printers, because Sawgrass printers are made for Sawgrass ink. And that's a huge advantage. I learned that from Jimmy Lamb.
Well, yeah, that's a huge advantage. But there's one other thing too. When you talk about a warranty, if you found brand T, brand T decided that, hey, we make cartridges for Sawgrass printers. Well, immediately that's going to void the warranty, because the fact is we haven't tested and approved that ink, which is a chemical. Everybody's got to remember that inks are chemicals. Okay. Think about it. Do you want to just put random chemicals in your body? Well, we don't
Right.
put random chemicals in our printer either, because we haven't.
Right.
You drink chemicals every day, but the safe ones, we hope, right? This particular
You
soft
hope.
drink or tea or coffee has been tested, right? And it's
Right.
for your body, right? As opposed to ones that aren't. So it's the kind of same thing too when you start mixing brands of inks and everything else into other stuff.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, so all right, yes, okay, so every printer, okay, Missy, if you can afford to waste that much ink, then you can afford a 400 for sure to designate for the vinyl. Okay, Barb says, is the jet coal paper, I guess that's how you say it, JETCOL, paper profile for the new Nina paper? I don't
Um,
know what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
Yeah.
Don't remember seeing that one in our system. Hang on a minute now.
Jetcol. JETCOL. Barb, I'm not sure what that is.
Oh,
So,
it is in there. Okay, so she's ahead of me. The Jet Coal DHS. Yes, it is in there. I do not know what it was designed for. Sorry.
well,
We
I
can
don't,
find out. I
yeah,
don't want to keep getting up and running out. We have a short time left. But
right.
if you have a well, obviously you do have a Sawgrass system. If you saw that, just pick up the phone and call your reseller or call our tech support and ask them. It's a free phone call.
Yeah, I would really like to know that myself, Barb. But, well, obviously it's a Nina paper. So if it's a Nina paper, that could be, I don't know what it is. Nina just came out with a new paper, uses less ink and transfer in a shorter period of time. So, but Nina paper is not for sublimation. Nina paper is for heat transfers for laser printers. So I'm wondering if it has to do with, oh, but you guys have it in your profiles.
Let me back up for a minute. Nina makes a lot of different papers, and they also make them under different brands for other people. Sometimes if you buy one from a reseller and it's
Right.
on private label, Nina might have done it. I have not been briefed on what we're doing, if anything, with Nina right now. I would imagine somebody put it in there that Nina has something, but I don't know the answer to it. I don't get the answers to a lot of things until we finish all our product
Well,
testing.
I gotta know this because that's gonna make me crazy. You realize that, right?
Sure.
So okay, so let me see. Okay, so it says Jet Coal DHS sublimation paper. That's interesting. For the hard substrates market, this new paper, okay, for over 25 years, Jetcoal has revolutionized the sublimation printing industry with the introduction of Jetcoal DHS. The hard surface market is headed for a revolution in paper performance. Our Jetcoal will offer the market a way to print complex images with stunning photographic quality results. Very interesting. Sure
Guess you
would
better get
like
some
to.
and test it.
Yeah, I think I better test that puppy. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, well, I looked, I saw, and Interesting. So, Barb, now my question is, do you have it? JPP just did an announcement on it. Okay, well, they didn't tell me about it. Doggone it. Mine is coming today. Okay, so you need to show us then. I need to see it.
Show and tell.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So it is for sublimation. That's so interesting. Um,
There's lots of new
okay.
things coming out faster than I'm aware of them, to be honest. And we've seen a lot of new things come out this year, and we're going to see more things come out, over the next year. So I think there's a lot of things, we work on here, but I don't work in product development. So I have a big mouth. They don't tell me until they want me to tell the world. So it's best they don't tell me, right? And I really and truly don't know what they work on until they're ready to share it with the market.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. I understand because
Yep.
you might just blurt it out here and
Yeah, they say loose lips sink ships. That's what World War II is. So we don't want to sink any ships around here.
right, exactly. Especially the sublimation one. We definitely don't want to do that.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about is there anything new with Creative Studio?
Well, actually, for anybody that's using Creative Studio, as soon as you open the Creative Studio, when you go online to it, it used to open to a window that was our product wizard that said, choose your product. And I never liked the window because it didn't show you pretty pictures of the products. It only showed you like a list view. They finally took that out. So when you actually open it, you're looking at it without the product wizard, and you start by clicking on the product tab, which gives you all the pretty pictures. I love that. The second thing that you can visually see is once you start working with text and images, then down in the bottom right-hand corner of the main screen, instead of hidden in a drop-down box, are links to the fonts, to arcing.
Oh, nice.
So there's a couple of links that made more visible. I will tell you,
That's good. That's good because that's
there's going to be
the
some great
question.
things, and this is all I can tell you. It's going to be some great things moving forward.
Cool.
We've been listening to the input. They've listened to my input, and they are working. We have a team working on it, and it's going to be some really cool stuff. And I'm going to leave it at that because it's not out yet, so I really can't talk about it because I haven't seen
And
it
I
yet.
thought you said you didn't know. That's what you
Well,
said.
I just know the talk in the walls is we got a lot of great things coming down the road. So
That's
we have
cool.
a ton of Creative Studio users. It's really picked up in popularity, and it's just going to get better. It really is. It has a whole, like I say, it has some new people in with really great background, these types of things, working on the product. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see what all they come up with.
All right. So now let's talk about the Sublimation Summit.
Well, that's your thing.
No, that's your thing too, because you're going to be
It's your
there.
thing. It's your event.
What's that?
It's your event, so it's your thing.
It's the industry event.
Oh, the industry event.
Well, it is. It's
All right.
sublimation and heat transfer. And so, what kind of classes are you going to teach? You've got 4 slated for you per day.
I don't know. No
Wait,
one's told.
my earpiece just fell out. What?
No
What?
one's told.
Nobody told you what your classes are? Should I
No,
tell you?
I guess you should.
Okay, so pricing strategy.
Yep, my favorite.
Oh, good. Okay. So Creative Studio for beginners, and
Okay.
then Creative Studio Intermediate and Advanced. So I was going to do beginners and intermediate and advanced, but I think having the intermediate and advanced is, kind of, sort of the same thing. And then it leaves one slot open. So I was thinking doing a tips and tricks with sublimation. So, it could be lots of things because, aren't you Mr. Sublimation?
I think I always thought David was.
Well, David is, but you're you're the for sure the face of Sawgrass for sure.
Well, I didn't know a couple answers. Just saying.
Okay, so I mean, what I'm thinking, and maybe we talk about it, more, but You guys help me out here. What class
Well,
would you want to see
let me
Jimmy
pose
Lamb?
something. Let me pose something to you.
Yes, please do.
These are things that people either love or hate, and I don't want to use the word panel discussion, but wouldn't it be cool to have like me and David or me and somebody on front of everybody where they can ask any question they
Guess
want?
what? We're doing that already.
Oh, okay.
That's already a
I
given.
didn't know that because
Oh,
I'm
well, see, you should look at the website and then you would know those things.
some people are really busy.
Martha just said Captain Kangaroo and Mr. Green Jeans.
I like that. That's a good
Oh
one.
my God,
That's a
I
good
love
one.
it.
Oh, can I
That's
be Dancing Bear?
hilarious.
Can I be Dancing Bear?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Jimmy Lamb, the man, the voice, the legend. Woo!
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so yeah, that's already a given, actually. That's already there. It's slotted. That's different because it's going to be in the auditorium.
Auditorium.
Yes. So that seats quite a few people there.
Mm.
So you guys, I want to know a class that you would want because Jimmy, the truth is you have a lot of different unique giftings that you bring to the table. You know. Okay, and you just made me laugh and lose my train of thought. um and I was being serious. Anyway, so pricing is a huge one. People desperately want to know about pricing. Okay, so maybe actually, because this is another big one, is marketing.
Well, I have many marketing ones. I have one called What Are You Selling? Because most people really don't understand what they're selling. They think they're selling a sublimated product, which is not what they're selling. They're selling solutions to problems. They're selling memories. They're selling, they don't understand how to package what they're selling. And I think that's important. And I do a variation called marketing equals margin because perceived value determines what people will pay for it, not a formula. But if you don't understand that from like beginning to end of the marketing aspect and everything, then you're not
Well,
going to get the top dollar.
and you could talk about niche markets and stuff because
That's another
people.
favorite. Niches to riches is what I call it, by the way.
What is it?
Niches to riches.
Niches to riches. Well,
Yeah.
that's actually a pretty good one.
Yeah. Then I tell people how I got my start. Well, it started with embroidery, and I don't mind telling embroidery stories because I don't want to embellish it and call it sublimation. It was with embroidery, a lot of things I did, but it didn't matter what I was selling. I mean, it didn't matter whether it was sewn or it was printed. The concept was the same.
Well,
And
because the selling principles are the same.
right.
That's the truth. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're selling. It's the principles are still the same.
Right.
So you could be
Yeah.
selling.
Why did I get Walmart?
You could be selling sublimated underwear.
True.
Or embroidered underwear.
Embroidered toilet paper. I've done that before too. So hey, I have Walmart call me and invite me to come present to them because they discovered some of my products. Somebody was on vacation and discovered some of my products, which are souvenir. Same thing with God, I'm trying to think of the name of the stinking restaurant chain now. They make breakfast all day. Anyway, I'll come to me now. No, it's not one of them. It's a country thing.
Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, Cracker Barrel. Yeah, they called me too because somebody on vacation found some of my products and wanted to carry them in the stores.
I love Cracker Barrel. I'm just saying. It's like one of my favorite places in the whole world to go. Yeah. My husband does not like it because I stopped at every one of them for years.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and I can talk about how I had an account where at Christmas I filled up a brown UPS truck of outgoing products every single day. for almost 30 days. You know,
Nice.
it's not a bragging point at all. I mean, I like to share with people, you know, 'cause, well, how'd you do that? Well, I'll be glad to tell you. There wasn't any magic. There wasn't any, special button. And it was a whole lot of hard work, and a whole lot of fall on your face.
Well,
I'm
and it's kind of like the people think that there's overnight successes. It's rarely ever an
there.
overnight success. Rarely ever. It's usually a lot of hard work
Yeah,
that that people put into it, and then one day suddenly Walmart
right.
calls.
You gotta focus, and you gotta learn from your mistakes without getting heartbroken.
Right.
When somebody just flat out doesn't want to buy something from you and they actually hurt your feelings, go back and re-examine it later, because they might have taught you something.
That's
And
true.
a lot of
That's
those
true.
lessons along the way, and I don't mind sharing them, of how people actually. I had one sale where the guy almost offended me, and yet a month later, based on his final words, I was back there and sold him 600 pieces in 10 minutes, simply because he taught me how he thought. So, I
I
mean,
love it. I love it. So this
those
is
are the things
good.
that I can share.
So I think I'm going to be in your class and razz you.
No, I don't care.
I know you don't. I know you don't. You love it when I'm in your class and
I didn't
razz
say
you.
that either, but I don't mind being razzed. I've had plenty of it in my life.
Okay, so all right, so we have your 4 classes.
Okay.
Beginners Creative Studio. What do you guys think about this? Everybody comment. This is cool stuff. Okay, so um pricing strategy, that's up there. Niches to no, what did you
We
say?
call it niches, but I understand
Niches,
I call it niches.
niches,
It rhymes to
right,
riches.
niches to riches.
It rhymes.
Kind of like niches in your britches.
Yeah, it rhymes.
Okay. All right, I got it. Okay, so niches to britches. Okay. Or I mean
Riches.
to riches. Okay, niches to riches, and pricing strategy, and then we're gonna do Creative Studios 1 and 2, or 101 and 102, or however we're gonna put
Yep.
that. Okay. Okay. So love the sound of niches to riches.
See?
Well, I like it too. Niches to riches. I want you to do a YouTube class on that one. Well, Linda, he can't do that yet because he's got to do it at the Sublimation Summit.
Oh, okay.
And Jimmy Lamb, I have to tell you, that's going to be a game changer. That's going to be a game changer.
Right. You'll
And
get more out of Aaron from the press company.
what?
You'll get more from Aaron Knight. Come on, Aaron Knight's a great guy too. You already say he's
Oh, he is a great
whatever.
guy.
He's
So
a great guy.
there's a lot of cool people. So Aaron Montgomery's going to be there.
Another Aaron, that'll confuse people.
I know. Well, Aaron's great.
He'll bring you some socks. No way. You only get that if your co-host this program.
What? What?
Man, I got a pair of two guys regular.
I'm actually going to be on his program July 5th, I think.
I need to remind him I haven't co-hosted in a while. I think I did such a good job. Terry felt threatened, and he never had me as a co-host again. In case you were listening, Terry. But anyway.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I'll definitely make sure that they hear it. Okay, the thing with crafting and perceived value is that people don't create, most of the time, don't have a clue about the process of creating arts and crafts. Well, first off, people undervalue themselves. That's the first thing. And whether people are buying art or creating it, if you're creating it, you're usually, I mean, some people are probably very gifted and can just put it together and make it sing, and they can produce one right after the other there's a guy that I know on Facebook that is that way. I mean, he just floods it, and there are people who struggle, who, like myself, that it'll take me all day sometimes. I mean, sometimes I can create in 5 minutes. Other times it takes me 8 hours to create something because I keep going back to it. And I think, can you, if I created something in 5 minutes, um, is that less valuable than the one that it took me 8 hours? No.
Costs more. It's not less valuable.
Exactly. But sometimes you can get more.
Right.
Like this. My mugs. Hold on. Did I ever show you this? I probably did, because you're my buddy. So I probably did. My purse mug.
Yes.
Isn't that awesome? I'm drinking with my purse.
Well, what I would say is I cannot service every market because, first of all, I'm not,
Right.
and I tell people you gotta have a comfort zone. Go with what you know, right? So, I wanted to own a marina because I'm into boats, and marina costs a whole heck of a lot more money than an embroidery machine, right? So I buy an embroidery machine. And I start doing work for marinas, and I'm into saltwater fishing, and I realized that there was a demand for good quality, realistic fish designs. Okay. And
Yeah.
yet nobody had them for embroidery. So I couldn't create the fish from scratch, but I could take pictures of true fish and go to a graphic artist that I eventually hired and say, I need a realistic embroidered version of this fish. Now, I'm an embroidery digitizer. I can bring anything to life that you can draw. I just can't draw. Okay. Now, my art comes in with the embroidery digitizing of layering stitches and positioning to
So
get the
wait a
right.
minute. So why did you hire a digitizer to
He wanted
digitize it?
I hired him as a graphic artist.
Oh, okay,
He
okay,
drew stuff
okay.
because we were making logos for people and everything else. But I have my own line of products selling to the souvenir industry, so I had to keep punching out new designs that I couldn't draw, but I could sketch and hand it to him. But my point being is that attention to detail, and that's what made me the money because I understood a flounder has two eyes side by side on one side of its head, and flounder fishermen know that too. The average person doesn't. But what I'm getting at is I can make beautiful images within the space that I was comfortable. Okay, even though somebody else had to do the drawing, but I could do that. You're
Right,
right. I don't really understand the crafter's desire, so that's not my market. If you know what I mean.
right, right.
You're choosing your markets. You got to go with what you know, what you're comfortable. If you know equestrian, okay, then you can probably do some great stuff for that market, right? Me, you say equestrian, you say quarter horse. I think it's a big horse. They cut them off, at the knee. It's quarter of the height they used to be, or something, right? So I would be lost in that market, and that's what I tell people all the time. Because if you're passionate about the market, that's what you got to have in everything you do with this
And
is passion.
that's exactly what I was just going to say. It comes down to passion. How
Passion because
passionate are you about whatever it is that you're doing? And when you are, I believe it pays dividends in the
right,
end.
and you want to go out and sell. You don't have a fear because you're going into the market that you love to be in and sell, and you're comfortable and you're ready to just punch it out because you know it and you feel it and you live it and you sleep it and all
Right,
that.
exactly.
Right.
And right. Okay, so Linda, I want to clarify what Linda was saying. She said, I'm saying that people who don't create don't understand how much time is involved
Got
and
it.
cost, and thus don't get the need to make a profit. So they buy a design and they sell it, on a mug for $5, but yet it
Yeah.
took you 8 hours to create that design. So yes, I'm in total agreement with you,
Yeah.
Linda. And that
It's
is a tough, that's tough. So then it comes down to, like for instance, these designs that I did, purse mugs, I actually copyrighted these mugs, the purse mugs, because I obviously took the time,
right.
created it, and I wanted to copyright it. My Sublimation Summit is being trademarked. Sublimation for Beginners and Beyond is trademarked.
Right.
So I think when you value something, then you have to protect it.
Right. So the other cool thing in all of what you just were talking about is your purse mug. I mean, how unique and different is that? So many times we go out there and we're trying to put somebody's logo on a mug, just like 1,000 other sublimators, in a
Right.
100-mile radius or whatever, can put the same logo on the same mug. who's going to get the best, who's going to get the job, probably the lowest price. On the other hand, you created something that somebody else doesn't have. And so I tell people too, look at what the masses are doing and then stay away from it. Okay.
Right, right.
What they're not doing. Don't look at what they do, look at what they don't do. Go in there and find something that's different, and put it out there, because now they can't, it's not a commodity anymore. They can't just go out and buy sublimation and quit selling sublimation. I mean, that's the first rule. Never sell sublimation.
Okay, so that's a good question that people ask all the time, and I want to see what your answer is compared to my answer. So,
But now you got to wait to the summit because that's in the class.
no. So, when people say, what is the process? What do you say?
Well, the first thing I want to have an understanding of who the customer is and what their needs are, not by asking them, but by researching and analyzing them. Okay. Everybody has needs. Okay. Small business owner has a need for advertising, but they don't have a lot of money. Are there products that we can put in front of them that will get them exposure? Not the cheap crap that they buy from ad specialty people. No offense to anybody that does ad specialty, but I'm saying ink pens don't go very far in promoting your business. Okay. Other
Right.
things. So if somebody has a need and you can find a solution and it's a unique solution, and you can get a little passionate about it, you just found a way to sell to them. And that's where I try to analyze what people need and then go show them creative ways to be able to fulfill that need. I mean, I took it to the point with some places like tackle shops where I would show them that, listen, you take one of my beautiful fish and you put it on a hat, then put Joe's Tackle on there, people will buy that. They'll pay you to advertise to you. That's my angle with these guys. I go in and say, how would you like it if I could show you a way to have your customers pay you to advertise for you? And they're like, huh? Yeah. So make a profit on your advertising. You ever heard of Hard Rock Cafe? That's how they do it, but my point being is I understood their need and I understood the products I had that were a solution. Okay. And I did that over and over in the souvenir industry. You're talking to these little mom and pop shops that are they're going in, they're putting their house in debt every year to buy enough merchandise to stock the store because they're required to buy it in these huge quantities. Okay.
Right.
They don't know if it will sell. And they get stuck with a lot of stuff that doesn't sell. Right. And
you almost slipped there. It was like.
So we started going in, and we learned this from having a lot of talks actually with small business owners in the souvenir tourist industry. And so we started a program where we called it, just in time inventory, which is I didn't make that up. That's actually a name that the manufacturing people use. But my concept was buy 48 pieces instead of 4,800. Okay.
Right.
Different designs, put it on the shelf and see what people like. Then you know what they like because you're product testing before you invest in 4,800 or whatever. Right. And so they like that idea. I said, very little bit of inventory. Anything you get low on, you call me, I'll refill you in a week. Okay. So you don't have to keep inventory. All right. Because I can fulfill it just in time. Now, my price was a good bit higher because people were buying stuff from China, but they were also getting stuck with stuff and they couldn't ever reorder because they only
right.
once a year. And it was a mess. And so for a lot of the small and mom and pops, I actually created a solution for a problem. And they realized that once they figured out which of those 48 mugs, sold the best, that they could buy 500 of them, and I would get the price down. You know what I'm saying? So it's like coming up with programs to people, and then always the right emotional conversation too.
I have somebody speaking at the summit that is going to be talking about licensing your products. And I think that is so important. And again, it's part of staying relevant, and especially if you found your niches to riches. If you found that, then you're able to. But this is what she's going to be talking about: decoding the mystery of licensing. The idea of licensing artwork can appear daunting, but fear not. Through an understanding of the basics, you can dynamically boost your company's sales with little risk and time invested. In this seminar, you will learn how to find the right license for your target market, how to pair the right art with the right products. Good so far, right? How to make the right deal, how to negotiate contracts, how to manage royalties.
Right.
How awesome is that?
It's good
It's
stuff.
going to go right along with your niches to riches. I'll have them take yours and then I'll have them take hers.
We can do that, but there's just, in there, I'll give people so many different real life examples of the paths that I took, the walls I ran into, and how I figured out how to go up and over the wall. So
Love it.
that's what we try to do, so that you walk out with a little more confidence that, you'll find a way, because you're always going to find roadblocks and potholes. How do we get past it? So,
And that's the truth too. And the truth is not everybody's going to like you. You can be the
right.
sweetest, nicest, cutest, whatever it is, and there will
I
be
mean,
people who will not want to do business with you no matter what.
well, there's a lot of jerks out there.
There is, and there's a lot of people who just want the bottom line,
Yep.
who want, the cheapest, and it doesn't matter.
And there's a person
And
complaining
you got
about
to
it.
value yourself enough to say,
Right.
well, I'm going to walk away. I don't
Right.
want this. I don't want it
Absolutely.
that bad. And
I
that's,
don't know if I've said it on your program before. I say it all the time. Someone else will always do it cheaper. If you give it away for free, someone will pay you to take it.
that's exactly right. That's
It never
exactly
stops.
right.
The
That's
other one
well, and
that's
it's a
very
race to
important.
the bottom.
Yeah,
It's
race to the
literally the
bottom.
race to the bottom.
The other one is, if someone comes to you looking for a cheap price, they'll leave you just as fast looking for a cheap price. Cheap price does not build loyalty.
That's right.
It
Absolutely.
creates transient customers. That's it.
In my previous life,
Previous.
I literally I was probably one of the highest ones. And David just messaged me.
Going kind of.
I'm on live with Jimmy Lamb. Anyway, so I was pretty high in my industry, but my results were, I mean, really nobody could touch me. And I didn't compromise. So when it came time to get results, after they went to all the people who would give it to them for 10% and 25% and whatever,
Right.
they would come to me and I was 50%. And because they already went to the 10 and the 25 and didn't want to pay 33,
Yep.
so, and now they're going to pay 50 and they're going to thank me because I'm going to get it done. And
Yep.
that's the way it happened. And that's the truth.
Listen,
Just,
the best thing that I ever heard, and it was from a body shop, and a car body shop. And the guy said, I make it a point to be the most expensive in the area. If someone raises their price above mine, I will raise my price higher. And I'm like, really? He said, you better believe it. He said, listen, when people's cars getting wrecks and get damaged, they want a good job. They don't want a cheap job, especially if there's insurance involved, right? They want a good, reliable job, and they tend to look at you as being the highest price. You must be the best. And he says, I had to turn business away. I have so much business. He said, but I refuse to have anyone charge more than me. And it was just like, I don't know, that's crazy, right? But I mean, it wasn't.
no, but it's good. That's important. The
And
thing was, I didn't have the masses, but I had the customers that were loyal. That, I mean,
that,
and seriously, I mean, they would give me business. They would give me quality business because there was a relationship there. And just I can't even begin to tell you, when you build the loyalty with your customers, they stay with you. And when people knock on the door, they're like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, I already have someone. Thank you. And that's, to me, where it is. I mean, when you have that kind of loyalty and that kind of branding,
yep.
you really don't have to worry about it.
We started weeding them out. Okay. We've had this customer for a while, but you know what? They're always a pain. They always want it cheaper and everything else. You know what? You tell them, well, I'm sorry, we got like a 1 year backlog, but here's my favorite competitor's business cards, man. I hate, go down here and they can help you out. But I mean, we really did. We got
I
the phone.
have fired customers. There's no
Yeah,
doubt
you got
about it.
our
You
customers
have to,
sometimes.
because they, when, and typically it's the one who gives you the least, expects the most, and
Right.
demands it today. Oh,
It's
they
never
gave it
been
to you
happy.
today.
Yeah.
Yes, and never happy. Okay, the
Yeah.
psychology of selling. That's
I'll do
right.
it. Well, it's like a friend of mine. We're gonna have to wrap up because I am gonna
Yeah,
forget.
I know. I'm looking. It's 2:26. I'm
What
like, whoa.
one of my friends that I used to do a lot of seminars with in the embroidery industry, she had a really neat pricing system for rush orders. She called it the UPS system. She said, "Oh, you need it tomorrow? We call that red label, and that 100% add-on, 100% add-on. Oh, you need it in 2 days? We call that blue label service, and that is a 75% add-on. You need it in 3 days. That was called 3-day ground, which was like a yellowish, orange label, orange label. She said that's a 50% add-on. She said, because our normal turnaround is 4 to 5 days. If you need it any faster, you're going to pay. She said, how many people suddenly didn't need it tomorrow anymore?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Staying up all night to get it tomorrow, and I'm not making anything extra, and then they didn't even show up.
Well, I'll just share one more.
Okay.
I was told that in our industry, which was the commercial collectioning industry,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that you could not get the debtors, the business debtors, it was a business to business. You could not get them to overnight you the check. You would have to use your Federal Express or whatever to get them to overnight. And I said, oh no, that's not working for me. So I never did have the account. I always had them overnight, and they did. They did. They did. So it's just the way, if you believe it, then you do it. If you don't believe it, you won't do it. And
Right.
if you don't believe that it's going to sell for, that you can get $20 for a mug or $30 for a mug, you can't. If you believe you can, get $5 for a mug, then that's what you're going to get. Oh, but in my area, well, I don't even think that works anymore. And the reason I don't is because there's the thing called online that is exploding. And by the
Yep.
way, we're having someone talking on selling on Amazon, which is a really pretty cool deal. Somebody talking about resources. I mean, this guy is just so good. You probably don't know him, but you should get to know him.
Okay.
There's a lot of cool people coming.
Yep.
Besides you. I mean, you're, of course. And you will have this, Q&A.
Okay.
It's going to be you, probably Rich Zdonik.
Okay.
David Gross, of course. I don't know. I forgot all the people that I have on that, but it's going to be cool. People are going to love it. Anyway, thank you for your time. And when's our next one? July what?
I don't have it set, I don't think.
Well, we have
I'll get back to you on that.
What's that?
I'll get back to you on that because they may
Okay.
want to split up on my end, so I got to look at our scheduling.
Okay. All right. Well, text me and let me know,
Okay.
please,
I will.
so I can let the group know. Because they
Right.
love you, Jimmy Lamb.
Okay, whatever.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. We will see. Okay. So the highest quality people in the industry in one place. Amazing. I agree, Martha. Yes. Okay,
What place?
Jimmy, thanks for the ideas to the military. I am a vet, and you gave me a bunch of great ideas. Awesome,
Okay,
Kelly. Cool. Love it. Love it. Okay, guys, thank you all. And by the way, just so you guys know, I will be live with David on their Facebook group. So in just a little bit. So you guys make sure you join over there.
Yep.
Bye, Jimmy Lamb.
Okay.
Talk to you
See
later.
you later.
Okay. Bye.